So, what we have here is an article that I think covers something that is extremely important for people to understand. It is extremely valuable to understand the concept of emotional intelligence and be capable of implementing it. Jessica Stillman has made a fantastic opinion piece here, and I'm basically just going to plagiarize it because I think a lot of people need to hear what's here. The four-word phrase that's a sure sign of low emotional intelligence, according to star psychologist Adam Grant. Stop thinking and speaking about your feelings in this way, and you'll instantly level up your emotional intelligence. Yeah, that's a little bit of a cringe way to present it, but I understand they gotta appeal to the kids. Life is full of difficult emotions. That's unavoidable. What you do with these difficult emotions is what determines your level of emotional intelligence. According to the best-selling author and psychologist Adam Grant, here's one response that's a sure sign your EQ is very low. And it can be captured in just one four-word phrase. When someone at work does something selfish, thoughtless, or manipulative, it's entirely natural to feel a spike of anger. It can even be productive if channeled properly, research shows. What's not healthy, Grant insisted on a recent episode of the podcast Rethinking, featuring a fellow psychologist Susan David, is to blame the other person for your rage. I don't judge emotions, but I do judge the way people give up their agency over their emotions, Grant tells David. A sign of emotional intelligence is abandoning the phrase, "you made me feel," because you're giving other people power over your emotions. No one can make me feel anything. To take the line that's misattributed to Viktor Frankl, this is to say that if you commonly use the phrase, "you made me feel," you might be sitting on an opportunity to significantly improve your own. It's not that other people don't influence our emotions. Of course they do. Nor is anyone arguing that other people's behavior can't be genuinely awful and worthy of our anger, sadness, or disappointment. Grant is also at pains to emphasize his comments should not be seen as letting genuine bad actors off the hook, which is where I think this is extremely important. This isn't saying that if somebody murders your parents, then it's your fault if you feel bad about that. That's an understandable, reasonable thing, right? I'm not talking about abusive relationships here. If you're being, gaslit by a manipulative narcissist, that's not what we're describing, he underlines. The two psychologists stress just how disempowering it is to believe there is no freedom of action, no conscious choice between other people's everyday problematic behavior and our mental and emotional response to it. There is a space between stimulus and response. You control your behavior, but I choose my reactions, Grant insists. Exactly. This is where a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy and mindfulness and these types of things come from, which apparently there's been a long study going on, which it's about to explain here, with a wiser approach to your emotions. The idea that we have the capacity to choose how we respond to provocation and disappointments is appealing, but it also raises an important question. If "you made me feel" is a red flag for low emotional intelligence because it implies other people control our feelings entirely, what is the alternative approach? How exactly do you create and employ...
Mouser, get the fuck off of there! You know you're not supposed to be up there. Get down! Okay, I'm reaching for the bottle. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that'll get you off the fucking asshole.
If "you made me feel" is a red flag for low emotional intelligence because it implies other people control our feelings entirely, what is the alternative approach? How exactly do you create and employ that space between stimulus and response Grant talks about? Grant and David share some ideas in the podcast. David, for example, suggests a subtle but important switch in how you think about your emotions. If we think about the language that we use when we say I am sad, I am angry, I am being undermined, you're showing complete linguistic fusion between yourself and your emotion, which is something you might have heard in pop culture or even common culture. It's pretty popular to say speak in I am statements, which comes from actual psychology. Don't say "you make me feel," say "I am feeling this because of what you have done." It's a small distinction, but it's a very important distinction. Here, there is no space between stimulus and response in which you can make a different choice. Instead of saying "I am sad," David suggests tell yourself "I'm noticing I'm feeling sad." Research shows emotions are stories we tell ourselves to explain physical and mental sensations. When you use language to remind yourself they are constructed in this way, you give yourself the space to tell different, better stories. This is, of course, from the words of Jessica Stillman, the writer of the article. That's a fascinating approach, and one I've written about before, but I recently read about a more practical method that translates academic theory into simple, everyday practice. It's called the WISER method, and it's endorsed by decades of research. WISER stands for Watch, Interpret, Select, Engage, Reflect. Basically, it boils down to exactly what Grant recommends. Rather than feeling hijacked by your emotions, you observe and probe them before choosing how you want to label your feelings and respond in practice. In this model, others can give you unpleasant fodder for consideration, but they can't make you feel anything that doesn't serve you. Trying to tamp down or ignore emotions through sheer force of will seldom works, but taking a step back and considering your feelings before acting on them is an excellent way to significantly increase your emotional intelligence. And now that sounds like something extremely simple and straightforward, but it's easier said than done. And it's something that is incredibly important that every single person on the planet needs to work on. They need to understand that their emotions are within their control. Your emotions are something that happen to you, not something that control your actions. Emotions are an incredibly important part of the human experience and not something that can just be ignored or hand-waved away. You have to address them, and it's important to find the source of where they're coming from to determine the relevance and importance of them so you can try to hand-wave them away if they don't deserve to be emotions that you should be feeling. And, that's basically cognitive behavioral therapy, but the WISER method sounds like it's just more of the same, of this mindfulness, of this being conscious of what is making you feel a certain way and trying to get to the bottom of the relevance of it to stop it from having control over you, right? And this is an incredibly important thing that I think everybody needs to take account of. Just do it. It's good for you. It's good. It's good.